Hey everybody, and welcome to another webinar with DuckSoup. Today our presenter Giles Garnett, the head of professional services, will be showing how to use LinkedIn lists to boost lead gen. And me, Jen, the head of customer support, will be answering your questions via live chat. So at the end of the webinar, as usual, we will have a Q&A with Giles. So let's begin.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Giles Garnett. I'm Head of Professional Services here at DuckSoup. And welcome to today's DuckSoup webinar. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever in the world you may be. So today, I'd like to show you how to access and make use of a very useful function within LinkedIn and what we call the LinkedIn lists. Just very briefly, for those of you that are new to our product, DuckSoup is able to automate your LinkedIn lead generation activities, providing functionality which allows you to auto-engage with your prospects, viewing profiles, endorsing skills, and sending personalized messages. So today, I'm not going to be looking so much at the in-depth functionality of DuckSoup so much, but more where we can find sources of data within LinkedIn that we can then apply for use by DuckSoup for your automated actions. Now, all the lists that I'll show you today can be traversed by the DuckSoup robot. So you can use the information in this webinar to find the list that you want, head to it, and once you have your DuckSoup configuration set up, be that just for visits or auto connects or endorsements or whatever, you can just start the robot from the page that you're on. And hopefully, the aim of today is to show you something new in LinkedIn that can help you to find the prospects that are of value to you and your business. So it's going to be a mixture, again, of a few slides and a live demo where to find things in LinkedIn. I've swapped things around since I made this slide, but what we will do is we'll look at all the lists first. We'll look at the search alerts and LinkedIn groups, alumni profile views, likes and reactions, and shared connections. And then at the end of the presentation, I will show you what you can do with those lists and how you can make sure that you're acting in the right way with DuckSoup against those lists. So we'll start with search alerts, and this is the most common starting point for everyone when you're looking to expand your network is the people search function. So what I'm going to show you in a minute is how to carry out a search and then how to create a search alert. Can you carry this out in both standard LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, but there are some differences which I'll explain during the demonstration. So if I just come out of here and go to LinkedIn, and I will go to my homepage on a standard LinkedIn, and I'm going to carry out a very simple people search, hopefully when things have loaded. Reacting slightly slowly this afternoon for some reason. Here we go. Right, so I'm going to type in here a very simple people search here. I'm going to look for lead generation in people. What we will now do is I will refine this search, because at the moment I've got way too big a result here. I've got over 100,000. We want to refine this search somewhat, so I'm going to apply second degree connections, and I'm going to narrow down my my geographical search as well to bring down this search results to a more manageable level. And actually what I'm going to do now is I'm going to filter this even further, and I'm going to focus upon IT and services. And I will apply that. So what I have now is I have a search result of 400 or so results. Now, if this is, once you've refined your search and you're happy with that, what you can do in standard LinkedIn is you can create a search alert. So here over on the right-hand side, you can press create search alert. And with standard LinkedIn, you can only choose to have an alert weekly, and you'll get your notification via email. You can press save there, and you now have saved that search alert. And what you will now do is, whenever this search result is updated, you will receive an email with a hyperlink to the delta against when you last searched it. So if you now carried out your lead generation activities, your duck soup automation against this result now, when you revisited it from your link that you receive in a week's time, you would only see the delta. So as you can see here, the important thing with all of these lists, and we'll come back to this again and again, is that when you have your result here on LinkedIn, that your duck over in the right hand side is green. As long as the duck is green, you can then carry out automated activities, whatever that may be that visit profiles, visitors and connect, or perhaps scan profiles. So all of these are lists that we're creating or finding different sources of data within LinkedIn. Now, as I said, if you get after a period, you get your email through to provide you with a link to an update. Here's an example of an email that I had regarding a business analyst search that I carried out previously. And what we have here is the link to my updated search. This is one I did in Sales Navigator. And in this case, the delta since last time I looked at this is 1. I've got 1 new person. Therefore, I know nothing else in that search has changed. I've got 1 more person to process against that particular campaign or activity that I was carrying out against that search. Now, the difference between standard LinkedIn and Sales Navigator is here. If you have the free LinkedIn, you are limited to, I believe it is 3 saved searches that you can carry out and get notifications for. If you have premium, there is a much higher number there. But the big difference with Sales Navigator there is that you can choose to have notifications over a different period. So you can choose to have an email update every day, every week, or every month. So that's really handy. And by using the search alert facility within LinkedIn alongside DuckSoup, you can process updates to your search results really quickly and efficiently against your campaigns. So as I explained, you can choose. You will have a weekly alert for your saved searches. The Sales Navigator, that's monthly, weekly, or even daily. So you don't waste your time repeatedly specifying and submitting your search criteria. You can use like a search alert to find updated results and ensure you don't miss out on those potential leads. We pop back to the slides then. So there we go. It's a very simple, very easy activity there to enable that. A really powerful function in LinkedIn. If we now look at LinkedIn groups. So LinkedIn groups are, as you know, close communities of people who have usually have common interests and backgrounds. LinkedIn groups can help you expand your LinkedIn network, and is one of the fastest and easiest ways to create an extensive LinkedIn network. So what you need to remember is that your LinkedIn network is made up of connections within 3 degrees of separation, and also the members of groups that you have joined. So LinkedIn profiles that are in the same group are considered, in the same group that you're a member of, are considered part of your LinkedIn network. So that's even if they aren't first, second, or third degree connections. Once you're part of a LinkedIn group, you can use DuckSoup to engage with that group, with people in that group, with the additional knowledge that you already have something in common, be that an interest or professional experience. And that can therefore increase your chances of building a rewarding business relationship with those people. So just by joining groups, you get the huge benefit of expanding your LinkedIn network. You don't have to participate in every group you join, but to make best use of this, the main thing you need to focus on and ensure is that you join groups that contain your target audience. One of the benefits as well, especially if you're using the free LinkedIn service, is that if you reach your commercial limit for searches inside a month, and you get this warning that's over here on the right hand side, you can still engage with people that are in the groups. So you can join a number of groups and still engage within that population. The big difference with Sales Navigator is that you don't need to be a member of a group to search within it. Now, we've got a blog that was written, I think, last year sometime, about getting the most from LinkedIn groups using Duck Soup. What I'll do is I'll just go to show you where we can find the groups. So within standard LinkedIn, there are a number of different ways that you can look at your groups. You have a shortcut on the left-hand side here, but what's probably easiest and is most common for people, both because it's the same in both standard LinkedIn and within Sales Navigator. If you click on the work icon on the top right, you get this drop down here, and you can then click on there, which gives you a complete list of all the groups that you are a member of, and also those that you have requested to be a member of. So if I click on one of these groups, for example, the growth hacking one here, for that one to open, we can see here that this has somewhere over 11,000 members, and they are considered part of my network. All of those members are considered part of my network, even if they are beyond third degree connection. We click on view all of these people, I then get a list of all 11,000 members. Now, one of the things that you need to remember when carrying out these sorts of activities is, and it's one of the things that you need to be aware of, is that this is unlike a search result. When you carry out a search result within LinkedIn and you get 100 pages of a search result, is that this particular style of page within LinkedIn is usually one of these infinitely loading lists. So as I scroll down the page here, you'll see that more and more profiles are loaded as I scroll. Now that means that it can be difficult to process these all at once. And what we recommend you do here, if you're using Duck Soup against these sorts of lists, is that, again, we have the icon has turned green, so we know we can carry out automated activities. What we recommend you do when you have one of these lists, of course you can filter this list as well, is that you actually carry out a scan against this result. This gives you much more flexibility and the ability to edit these lists before you then carry out your automated activities. So if you're not familiar with that, we'll press the scan button. And what we'll see here now is that Duck Soup will now scan the high-level data from this result. We should see shortly the counter here going up. What the scanning does is it gathers high-level information from the search result that we have, or the result that we have on the page, and then we can download that data. And as I'm sure most of you are familiar with, we can then edit that data and then revisit those profiles at a later time. So now that we've got some data, you can see we've got a counter now of 20 up here, so we've got something to work with. We'll stop the robot. And what we'll do now is we'll download our data. We'll have the scan data here that we've downloaded, that we've managed to gather. That will create us our CSV file. And then in order to then go further with that data, you could edit that CSV file to refine the list of people that you wish to contact or communicate with. We would then go to the revisit data option here, and then we can then, in this particular place here, we can choose the CSV file that we've just created, and then we have the list here. And this is a much more manageable way then to process the data. It means that you can then run Duck Soup against this result here. You can do it in a much more controlled way. It can help you to manage the number of visits or the number of profile invites that you're sending out, connection invites that you're sending out on a daily basis. It can also help you with managing campaigns and message activities. Another tip there would also be to make use of, let's go to the options a second. When you're carrying out activities like this, You might also want to, for example, tag the profiles as you go through to make sure that you can identify the profiles that you visited, and that you've tagged them with a DuckSoup profile, a DuckSoup tag to enable you to manage your contacts and everything. So that's a way that you can then use these lists. So that's how you would find people within groups. Now, as I said a while back, if we go to Sales Navigator, just close that one down, and we'll head over to Sales Navigator. Just to illustrate here, one of the things that you don't need to be is you don't need to be a member of a group in Sales Navigator to be able to search within that group. Just wait for this to load. Seems to be a little slow this afternoon. So what you can do then is you can go to the Advanced Search tab here. We'll go to Search for Leads. If we scroll down to the bottom here and we go to Groups here, if you want to find people in groups, you can type in this case, we'll type in lead generation, and we'll look at the lead generation group. And what we can see here is that there's somewhere over 3,000 members. And even though I'm not a member of this group, I can now search within this group here. As we did earlier, we can also then save this search. And what I can do here is, as I did with the search alerts, I can set up here notifications to come through to my email either on a daily, a weekly, or a monthly basis here. And then I would receive an update against this search result when things change. So that's another very powerful way to be able to get data out of LinkedIn and then process through DuckSoup. We now look at the alumni option. And so virtually every educational institution, so that's schools, colleges, universities, etc., will have an official alumni page based on the education details that LinkedIn members have provided, have put into the system as they've built their profiles. So once you know which school you're looking for, if you want to particularly target a particular school or educational establishment, you can simply find the school on LinkedIn and then browse their alumni page. You don't have to be an alumni of that school to list the alumni, and I'll show you now how you can find that. When you get to the alumni, you'll see that there's also a number of different filters that you can use to narrow down your target, and this can be a very powerful way to target people geographically and also demographically, and also from a subject matter point of view. So if once again we go back to LinkedIn, and what I'll do is I'll now look for a particular educational establishment. So we'll look for the University of London. And here we go. There's their page here on LinkedIn. As you can see here on the left-hand side, we have the link to the alumni. We just click on that one. And hopefully something will happen. It's a little bit slow this afternoon. There we go. So we now have nearly 120,000 alumni from the University of London. And once again, we can see here, Duck up here has turned green, so we can do something with this list. If we scroll down here, we can see here that once again, this is an infinite loading list. The further I scroll down, the more people turn onto it. So once again, would recommend to scan this this list. Or once you've narrowed down this list, I wouldn't recommend trying to scan 120,000 profiles. That would the page would time out certainly. But what you can do now is you can narrow down your search. So first thing of all you could do is maybe look at a period. So if we look at the period between the year 2000 and this year, we'll immediately narrow down the search. That knocks it down to 72,000. And what we could also then look at is a geographical breakdown. So we could, for example, look at people who are now based in the United States. And if we scroll to the right here, use the next button, we can look what area what area they work in, or perhaps what area they studied. So if we wanted to look at finance people who studied at the University of London and are now based in the US, we would now end up with a result of 271, which is a much more manageable figure to be able to then process against our particular lead generation needs. Once again, our duck up here has just turned green. So now you could carry out activities against this list. Now, because you're not a member of this group, and this isn't a group, if people are beyond third degree connections, you will only see the fact that they are a LinkedIn member. They are beyond your network. So you won't be able to see everybody in in this particular list, but it's another very useful way to be able to search for people, especially from a demographics point of view and an education level, and also geographically, and also within their professions as well. So that's a very, very useful way to find people through the alumni networks. We go back to the slides 1 second. Now I'm going to check on a few other little items here which you may or may not be aware of. We're going to look at who's viewed your profile, how we can look at likes and reactions to posts on LinkedIn, and then also some activities on shared connections, people who you may have in common with other people who are in your network. So once again, we'll start. We'll go to my homepage on LinkedIn. And what you can see here is on the left-hand side here, you have your profile, you'll have this who viewed your profile. And once again, it's taking a while to load. But if I click on that one there, now because I have Sales Navigator, so LinkedIn Premium profile, I am able to see the trends that have occurred here. And we see here once again the duck has turned green, and you can see here you can see exactly who has viewed my profile. If you have a free LinkedIn account, you're only, I believe, able to see the most recent 5 viewers within the last 90 days. So it's much more limited information is available. If you go to this link from Sales Navigator, it takes you to exactly the same page as from LinkedIn. So if I was to click on who viewed your profile here, it would take me exactly to this page again. So there's no difference there in the actual location. The difference would be as to what type of LinkedIn profile you had. Another thing that we were going to talk about was likes and reactions. So posting business content helps you to optimize your presence and reach the right audience. So it's also a great way to keep up to date with and research your competitors. So one of the most compelling reasons to follow your competitors is so that you can see what kind of content they're sharing and accessing and their audience by checking out who liked their posts in LinkedIn. So under every LinkedIn post, you can see how many reactions the post has received, and then open the profile list to see who has reacted. So if we scroll down here and find something that's got a number of reactions, maybe a manageable number of reactions. So here we go. If we look at this post here, this one's got 235 reactions. Now, if you look at the moment, DuckSoup can't do anything at the moment because it hasn't got a list to work to. If I now click on this 235, we now get the list of people who have reacted. We can look at the thumbs up, the applauses, etc., etc. And we can see now that DuckSoup is ready to process this particular list here. So what you could do again then is you could scan this list and then edit that further and carry out your automated actions against that list. But it's a way to gather information very quickly and efficiently. It's a very useful and powerful tool, especially when you're looking at people within the same industry or competitors. very straightforward activity, and it's something that people often forget about or neglect, and it's like, oh yes, I can look at that. And then finally, we're going to look at shared connections. So if I go back up and I look at my network, and if you look at connections that you have, people who are sitting within your direct network, if you now find somebody in your network, let's wait for this to load. There we go. And if I now, I don't know, just to be sociable, Jin, I'll click on your profile. And we can see here now, I'm able to carry out a search against my colleagues' connections as well. So if I click on there, I then get a new list here, and I can see various people here. You can see how that works here. That we have then a shared connection, and I can then carry out, I didn't need to do that. Let's go back. There we go. So I have 16 people here that I could, we have in common, that I would be able to then connect to based upon the networks that we have. And once again, we can see here that the duck has turned green, and I can do something with that list. So those are some of the lists that we've been able to hopefully give you a little bit more information about. As I said earlier, what do we do with those lists then? And the one thing to look out for is always look out, see if the duck has turned green, and then you can run your automated actions. So from your drop-down menu from the duck soup icon over in the right-hand side, you can then either choose to visit those profiles. You can visit and connect, of course, possibly with a personalized message, or scan the list of profiles. And that's where I really can't emphasize enough, be aware of those infinite loading pages. And that's where the recommendation would always be to scan the list. Now, of course, you would need to think about when you're sending connection messages, if you're visiting, if you're trying to build your network using groups or alumni, then you can really use that as an opportunity to customize your message according to how you have found those people, saying that you were perhaps also an alumni of the same college, or you have a certain connection in common, for example. And that can be a really strong way to be able to help to make a connection with someone through common interests, etc. And that can work very effectively from a lead generation perspective. Okay, so those are the main things that I wanted to cover today. I realized that we've been going nearly half an hour. Couple of other things that I want to mention before we get to questions and answers, of which there may be some. I haven't had any conversation with Jin yet. So a couple of dates for your diaries. On Thursday next week, there is a webinar that is going to be presented by our marketing team, covering the new Duck Soup affiliate program, which was launched a couple of weeks back, Dabble. Information available on the website. And then in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks today, I will be presenting a webinar which will show you how to keep track of all your LinkedIn conversations by showing you how to make them appear in a Google sheet, tracking sheet. That'll be focused upon users of the Turbo users. You'll be able to use showing you how to build a Zap to make sure that those conversations are all appearing within the spreadsheet or environment that you want them to appear in. Just a very quick plug for the booster and technical calls. This information is available on the homepage, the website. If you're just starting up with Duck Soup and need some extra help in getting everything set up, you can book a booster session through the homepage. If you're as a more advanced user and are looking at building Zaps or need further more technical assistance, then we also offer technical sessions. Again, all of those are available and bookable through the Duck Soup homepage. And then for completeness, some useful links here. So the Duck Soup homepage, there's the webinars, and that has links to all of our previous webinars and also links as to how you can register to the future ones. The easy tutorials, that's everything on YouTube, the basic setup guides, our support page, and of course our Facebook page as well. I think I'm done talking until Jin then maybe fires some questions in my direction. Jin, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Yes, we do have two at the moment. Kat is asking, can you narrow down within groups like their work level, for example, CXO versus entry level? That's regular LinkedIn.
Okay, so if we go to, let's go to groups. You can apply filters and searches to these. How extensive the filters are, we'll have a look. It does seem a little slow today, though. Hey, at least we didn't drop out this time like 2 weeks ago when we lost connection completely, I believe. So here we have this particular group. Let's have a look here. So within the group here, what you can do now is you can carry out a simple search within that group. So, for example, if you wanted to put CEO, there we go. We ended up with we get a result. It doesn't tell us how many on that particular search result. But yeah, you can carry out a search within there. It's a basic search. There's not many filters available within standard LinkedIn. Of course, you can filter to a much more granular level within Sales Navigator. But what I would advise here is that you carry out you scan this result, and then from your Google Sheet or your CSV file, you then carry out some sort of filter from in there, because you'll get probably you'll get the high level job title of everybody in that particular group in your CSV file, and then you could filter it that way within that, and then reload that up into through the revisit tool. Okay.
Question would be, is there some way to create alert for specific content search in LinkedIn? Agnieszka asks.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that, Jim.
Sorry, is there some way to create alert for specific content search in LinkedIn?
An alert for content?
Yes.
There probably is. I will have to look into that. There probably is, yes, almost certainly. But off the top of my head, I've not looked into that, and I think it may take a few minutes to go through that. So I will look into that. If you could take a note of whoever asked that question, and then we can make sure that we message them after the webinar and answer that question properly.
Yes, of course. Another question: can you please elaborate on the webinar on the March 17th, the one which is going to happen on the 17th?
Okay, so on March 17th. So what I'll be showing is how we can use DuckSoup Turbo Edition to make all of the conversations that you have, so all of the messaging that occurs that you have, all the messages to and from your network within LinkedIn, showing how to make that data appear in a Google tracking sheet. There was a basic tracking sheet presentation done, I believe, back in October or November last year by Will, but from a very high level. If we go into to the DuckSoup options, I'll show you how to get there. So we go into here, into DuckSoup, and we go to options. So what we'll be looking at is under DuckSoup Turbo and under the connection, we'll be building a webhook to capture message events and then transfer conversation data from our both our standard LinkedIn mailbox and our Sales Navigator mailbox, having those conversations appear then in a Google Sheet, and that will be date and timestamp. It'll be the text of the conversations, and also the URL as to where to find those conversations, so you can have a hyperlink directly to those conversations. And of course, that could then be applied to conversations being also then mapped into, for example, your CRM or whatever repository you're using to facilitate your lead generation activities. Okay.
Let's say I have sent 100 messages. Can I easily keep track on how many replies without needing to count them manually?
Yeah, I mean, if you have if you can build a process whereby the messages where you will be getting replies, because when you get a reply, you get a certain tag applied to your a DuckSoup automated tag is applied. So yeah, it'll be very easy to see who has replied and who's not replied to various conversations. So yeah, the idea is to have a tracking web spreadsheet to show you how conversation flows are going, and to see how much further discussions have gone, and you can see which ones are, if you like, dead leads who are not responding. It should be very easy to do that rather than being able to categorize things. And then through auto formatting of your spreadsheet, I would imagine then you could color code your potential leads accordingly.
Thank you. Another question would be on the safety side. So can LinkedIn detect the IP and restrict or terminate if we use DuckSoup?
DuckSoup has been as a product active now for over 5 years, and we are continually working to make sure that our users remain as safe as possible. And if you remain within the safety limits that we have, that we've provided, that we use as guidance within on our website, there should be no problems at all. The problem comes if people try to send too many connection requests or have the robot running too fast, and also if you have a build-up of outstanding connection requests. The problem also comes if you don't have a good connection message, or people are responding, if a high proportion of your your new invitations are responding saying, I don't know this person, then that's when people are encountering problems. It's the same with any form of automation. Then you have to be careful. You have to remember that we are trying to keep your account as safe as possible. And if you stay within the limits that we recommend, so not trying to increase your network too fast, and also making sure that you're making use of the planner and the throttling, as are all in the options for DuckSoup, then there should be no problem. Do you have anything to add from a support point of view there, Jin? Any other comments?
Following the recommended settings, then everything should work fine.
Okay. Anything else, Jin?
Was the last question for today.
Okay, well, I'd like to say thank you to Jin for facilitating and helping out with all the questions. Thank you, everybody, for your patience, and I hope you found this a useful session. And I look forward to speaking to you all again in 2 weeks' time. But don't forget, next Thursday, we also have the affiliate webinar as well. So maybe you'll be joining for that as well. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.